All right. Well, that class went through right on time, but oh boy, next week is going to be it's going to be a long one. But anyway, welcome to part 2 of our weekly test show. Now comes the part that I'm sure we've all been waiting for. Talking Tom and Ben going crazy over some random clips. And I gotta go through the Yahtzee folder because that's where it went. The little recording I made. So I moved that off of the little secondary partition. Well, my other SSD. And then I'm gonna go take care of the perfect line here. And then I'll save Flipside for tomorrow. So now you all get to hear Talking Ginger go crazy over some random stuff. And I see Nola Ronaldo won $1 million in his Big John's version of Wheel of Fortune. I'm not going to spoil it, but it has yet to happen on our series. All right. And yes, since it is Microsoft David, we'll just go ahead and let you all hear it. So, all right. Let me bring this over. And position everything. All right. Let's do this.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Your command.
Not a narrator 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 command.
Peter.
Not a narrator command.
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 And
Not a narrator command.
not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator 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 command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
command.
Not the narrator.
Not the narrator command.
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 Not the narrator
Not the
command.
narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not the 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 narrator command.
Narr-
Not the narrator command.
and
Not the narrator command.
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 Not the narrator command. Not the narrator command.
The narrator
Not the
command.
narrator command.
Not the narrator command.
Not the narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Narrator command. Narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Command. Not a narrator 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 command. Bad. Narrator. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator command.
A narrator
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator.
Not a narrator. Not a narrator command.
A narrator command.
Not 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 a narrator command.
Narrator.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a 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 narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Your command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Command. Not a narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Air command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Narrator. Narrator command.
Narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator command.
Command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command. Narrator command. Not a narrator command. Narrator command. Not a narrator command. Command. Not a narrator 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 command. Command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command.
All right. Well, that was good. That was great. I love it. I love that. All right. Well, that is that. I have just finished up with the. I just finished up with the perfect line from tonight. We're going to throw in the first part of tonight's automated stuff. And the Thursday tests are already embedded into tomorrow's daily monitor document. I like the way this turned out.
Not a narrator command.
Not a narrator command. I like that. All right, that's enough of the talking cat there. Because we have some other things we got to get to tonight here before, we're through with everything. And of course, the next part of such is the WMBS word game. I'll go ahead and get rid of the Audacity document. All right. So, for those of you who missed the first half, there's the letters. So let's see what we can come up with here. How about term? DAOCO. Term Daoko. Term Dioko. Okay. Let's try another one. How about OCERM AT. Oh, how about Deucer match? That sounds like a great word. That sounds like a very great word. TOCAMOCT. Tokamoked? Mocked? Huh. Interesting. How about TARMOCT? Well, yeah, that's the best I can think of. How about, let's try EMOCTERD. Oh, I gotta change that E because there's only one in this entire sequence of letters. All right, how about we try RECTMOAD? Yeah, I think that's all I can think of. But yeah, there you go. That is this week's WMBS word game. All right. So, as we are now ready to get back to business here. As we're ready to get back to here. Oh, that's not what I meant. But okay. All right, so as we're getting ready to get back to business, well, what can I say? I really enjoyed my Halstead Street Dogs meal. I really enjoyed it. I got the burger and the fries that I wanted. I also wanted the pink lemonade, which, in fact, that wasn't part of the meal package I got. It was actually part of a separate package that was also ordered. So So I ended up trading the lemonade for ended up trading my water for the lemonade. So, and I got to have both. And boy, I enjoyed every moment of that meal. While of course watching this week's Classic Concentration episode. Oh boy, those were good. All right, before we get to the scavenger hunt with the 20 minutes that we have before Deal or No Deal tonight, let's go back on some other stuff that was uploaded while I was gone. So, TFM posted the lacrosse test, and Lightning Runner actually posted the Gray Main test on the day that it happened. At least on the same day, so that's good. With Fox in the background, and then all the interesting. And then Saratoga, of course, got the Albany Weekly. Yep, on all his usual stuff. And then ES Mississippi got the Jackson test, although it happened very late today. And as a 6-hour event out of all times. Alright, one more place to check for stuff. CXP got the 6 p.m. the evening Tampa Weekly. I see Southern PA, while I was away, managed to DX some AM stations. And then WWLP decided to run a weekly during coverage of the Olympics. No clue why they decided to run one right before the Sweden versus USA game. And this was earlier today, so. Good thing you put black over the coverage and only showed the scroll. That was actually what I did when. That was the same thing I did when I got those WCIU weeklies off of the U2 during Scrambled Up. Well, back at the beginning of the whole TV season. All right, so now with that done, we're ready for some more eBay scavenger hunt. I know we did a lot of it earlier this afternoon, but you know what? Let's do some more, because why not? And also, I don't think I'm going to get more time to put together more Ticket to Ride episodes, but actually, I'll probably stay up tonight after we're done, and then I'll render the Dell Optiplex PC desktops and all-in-one computers. No, just Dell Optiplex. I don't want all that other search terms. Just anything you can give me. Picks for you from trusted sellers. That's fun. All right. First Optiplex is this 5070 with a 512 gigabyte SSD already in there. Very few have it. And no disk drive. Well, that's kind of the thing nowadays. In fact, I barely even use my disk drive in that small form factor, but it's nice that I have another one laying around, and just in case I need it. Here's that 3000 small form factor again with an i3 processor. And here's one that was listed recently. This is a 7090 small form factor with an 11th gen V Pro. And looking at the back of the device, you can tell this is a later 11th gen because of the Windows logo at the back, because that was when Windows 11 was released. And although there is no label or anything like that on, well, there was of course no box, so of course it's tough to tell if this is a downgrade, if this was one that was sold with a downgrade to Windows 10 Pro instead of having 11 Pro pre-installed. 26100.1, that is the RTM version of 24H. That's the RTM revision of 24H2. That's what the .1 is. The .1 means it's the first, the initial release of 24H2 before all these other security updates were made. Here's a 5090 Tower PC with the 10th Gen i5, a hard drive already installed. I'm guessing that's the power adapter. Or that's the, oh no, that's the tag there on the side, on the bottom. Here's a 3070 with a 9th Gen i5. So it only shows the front and the back. It doesn't show it actually operating. Here's another one with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabyte NVMe. At least it mentions NVMe. Windows 11 U4. U4 as in Windows 11 Pro. Here's a 7080 Core i5 V Pro 10th generation. That's a mouthful. So, has a disk drive. It is missing the little face, little label there where it shows the actual model number. That's what it's missing. There's some scratches there. And then I see there's a Wi-Fi card inside, so that's pretty nice. And then there's some mini DisplayPort to standard DisplayPort HDMI converters. So that's the power cable for the computer. Display cable converters. Oh, actually it's VGA, because I can see these things. So they're VGA converters, and then those are the Wi-Fi antennas. And then this is what it's like on the inside. So this is where you'd either put a 3.5 inch drive or a 2.5 inch drive for additional storage. There's the Quattro graphics card. And then somewhere inside there is the SSD. And then it shows 11 Pro. And then it shows that there's 16 gigs of RAM, as it shows on the motherboard. So it looks like it's actually using 4 channels of RAM. So each one having 4 gigabytes. So that's neat that this one has 4 RAM slots on the motherboard, although we can't really see them. They're likely hidden somewhere in the picture, but they're there. And then here's a 3000 micro with a 256 gig SSD, hard drive caddy for additional storage. Of course, it only supports 2.5 inch, but I'm not bothered by that. And then 16 gigs of RAM, which are hidden behind the CPU fan, actually. A good thing when I was doing that RAM upgrade, good thing I've read the documentation. And then here's another here's a 3090. This looks to be from the same seller. A 70, oh yeah, this one we were looking at previously, weren't we? The one where there's the Samsung SATA SSD instead of an NVMe drive. And then we have this other small form factor PC. Oh, it's a 7060. just shows some generic pictures. There's another new one, a 7070. We believe some of these we were actually looking at. This one is a 7080 micro with a 10th Gen i7, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. And of course, it doesn't have an operating system on it. It shows mass store. Oh, wow. It actually has 2 M.2 slots. One for mass storage and then another being empty. So you can actually put 2 SSDs in this thing, which is... And then SATA 0, you can put a hard drive. Now, actually, I want to take a look at Dell's support documentation because I want to see if this is actually true. So Optiplex 7080 Micro, that's the one we want. And then I can go to Manuals and Documents, Setup and Specifications Guide. And I want to be sure I'm looking at the right one. 10th Gen 700T. Yep, so that is the correct. So yeah, that is the correct one. And then we can look at storage. So of course it can show it supports 2 M.2 SSDs and 1 2.5-inch hard disk drive. So pretty much I could throw. So pretty much if I were to ever obtain this kind of PC, I could throw 2 SSDs in there, you know, sort of set up like a dual boot configuration. You know, one being for, you know, a personal and then one for like a domain of sorts. Or I could have one SSD with a smaller capacity store the operating system, and then have another SSD store all the files. You know, have it store all the operating system files. I mean, that would be nice. That would be pretty nice. I mean, for $265, I mean, yeah, this actually is a good deal of a computer. However, I would be limited to just DisplayPort and VGA on it, or just DisplayPort only. That is, unless I end up getting another VGA thing. And with 8 gigabytes of RAM, I mean, I could take the 32 gigs over from. I could take the 32 gigs over from the 3060 micro I have right now. I could take the 32 gigabytes over, and I could have this thing store 128 gigabytes for the operating system's files, and then have 1 terabyte be for the data on the PC, or actually have 2 terabytes, maybe another 2 terabytes. Yeah, so 2 terabytes to store, you know, stuff to run on the station, and then another 2 terabytes, you know, for network share, you know, to serve as like a network share. Because I can actually interchange data between all 5 of my PCs, between all 4 of my machines. Although my main PC hosts 2 of them, my old system hosts 2 of them. However, that is something I don't think I can do, and I have not tested it yet since I ran the update this morning. I want to see if I can actually do it now. So I can try to connect to the PC, but yeah, it'll just throw up an error eventually. So it'll say cannot connect to. Yeah, cannot connect to server PC. So yeah, I don't know. It's probably something to do with the network share, because I know these network shares were working before. So I think it was probably something to do with the insider update that ended up breaking that functionality. Yeah, I see Super Mario got the Georgia monthly test that just happened like 10 minutes ago. We managed to DXWSB. All right. So, with that, let's get back to the Optiplex PCs. All right. Next up is a 7060 Tower. Yeah, I mean, these things are showing their age, but hey, I mean, if it can run Windows 11, I mean, they certainly have a long life ahead of them. So, here's a 5080. Looks pretty decent, but I mean, aside from all the scuffs and scratches and things like that. There's another one of those 3070 PCs with 11 on it. And then here's another one of those 5080s with the 10th gen. Showing the front and the cover. It doesn't show us the inside. It doesn't show the motherboard and everything on the inside for what you're getting. And then here's a micro, a 5080 micro that actually doesn't have any Wi-Fi connectivity on it at all. So, but actually, that is the thing I like about my micro specifically, because it already has a Wi-Fi module on it. So that's great. That saved me a whole lot of time, and I was able to get it up and running very quickly. Unlike the small form factor, oh yeah, it was so difficult of me to get it up and running because I had to bridge the connection and everything like that until I got that Wi-Fi PCIe card. And now my experiences, and now I feel much better about the small form factor now that it's running much more reliably than it was before. And everything is so much faster now. Yeah, no more audio dropouts on its secondary feed and everything. That's how great I feel about these upgrades that I've done. Although this was something that was months in the making. I planned it out over the holidays, as I'm sure you all know, but it took a long time to get these all applied and I was able to do what I could, but then wasn't until January that we were able to get the rest of it finished. Here's a 7050 that has Windows 11 on it. Is this a live picture? I don't see a learn more about this picture thing, and it's up for auction apparently. Alright, here's a 50. I'm going to go and get the Windows 7 virtual machine ready to go here. Here's another 5090 with a 10th Gen i5, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, 11 Pro, has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Of course I can tell, but I don't see I can see the little gold thing, but yeah, that tells me all I just need to do is screw an antenna in there and then we'd pretty much be good to go. And next up is the 3080 Core i3 10th generation. But hey, it's nice that I have an i5, so because I find i5 and i7 to be very powerful Intel processors for what they are. So but hey, I mean, even if it was, for like 2 or 3 years, I mean, it was just interesting seeing how Windows 10 with an SSD would behave on a Pentium processor. So I was pretty amazed, but I'm at the same time ashamed that I didn't get to see Windows 11, that I never got to see Windows 11 on there, but hey, if I end up getting a 3190 in my hands some point in the future, if I ever do, then hey, I would like to see what Windows 11 is like on there. So here's the 3080 Micro. Let's see. So that's one of the SSD slots. And I know when we were looking at this, the other one had a second SSD slot. Oh, great. This is one of those Optane drives. But all I see is just one slot for the SSD. But then, of course, this one doesn't have that hard drive caddy, so you could put a 2.5-inch drive in there if you so choose. All right, then I think we got time for a few more. Next, we have this 3070 micro, which looks the same as my 3060. So, really, what's the difference if I get this 3070 compared to that 3060? Well, the only difference is HDMI. In fact, I believe my 3060 has all display ports. Yeah, but I believe all of the ports on there aside from VGA is DisplayPort. But we're gonna find out. Let's see. We have a 7090 3040. This is the only picture there is. Old Dell logo, 6th gen processor, and Windows 11. All right, let's go back up to the top. And here I'm going to change it to 3060. And no, not 5070. We want 3060. That's a Tower PC. This is the micro counterpart, yeah. And then we can look at the back. So yeah, there actually are no differences between the 3070 and the 3060 aside from the processor generation. There's really no differences in terms of, everything ports. So my 3060 has an HDMI, has a display port, and of course I've just added VGA to it. This one actually has VGA already out of the box, which is pretty nice. Although I had to add VGA separately to my micro specifically, a little later on, just to accommodate, my needs. But although it was quite difficult, although I think it was quite hard, I think the hardest part was, trying to see if I could get that cover off, because I wanted to preserve its condition as much as possible when I was switching the VGA module out of the small form factor for the micro. But hey, it worked out in the end. So now I can connect a 2003 HP monitor to it and see how a monitor from the Windows XP era handles Windows 11 with all these flashy new graphics and everything. Oh yes, and we also can't forget about that delicious Bloomberry that's there. Well, now that I think about it, I also found Michael MJD's video again when Windows 11 launched. Mikey likes it out of New York City. Actually, did a special promo, a limited time promo run of an ice cream flavor that takes the inspiration of the Windows 11 wallpaper, the Bloomberry wallpaper that's set by default. Well, it was set by default, but now it's Windows Spotlight that's set by default. But now it's the Spotlight that's set by default, but I mean, I don't know if I find the Spotlight thing better than just the default background. Well, I guess some people have their own opinions on it. An Optiplex PC that is Windows 10? Well, that's perfect, because judging by the logo, not compatible with 11. And then we can go down here. We can see more. This listing is for the desktop only. This listing is for the desktop only. No other pieces like keyboard, mouse, or monitor. So, yeah, as such, you'd have to provide those. You'd have to provide the other accessories separately. That is, in fact, what I had to do with the micro and the small form factor when I obtained both of them. I had to use whatever spare keyboards and mouses we have. Like, for instance, when I got my old PC back up and running, I used the keyboard that came with my new PC and the mouse that came with it as well. And then I used the mouse and keyboard that came with my old PC. And then when I got the micro set up, a monitor and a keyboard came from a workplace, and the mouse came from that old HP desktop PC. But, of course, all work fine. So, and I mean, that's what counts. If they work, and they work just fine. But it's weird to still see the old Dell logo with the Windows 11 logo on the keyboard. But good thing I took that keyboard from my new PC, and because I'm still using that Logitech wireless keyboard I got several years ago. Yeah, that I got several years ago, when I wanted to turn that old Inspiron laptop I had into a desktop. And boy, how fun of an experience that was. Here's a 3070 with an 8th generation i5 processor, Wi-Fi card, no hard drive, with adapter. And yep, I'm assuming it's I believe the original adapter. Yeah, that is how it. Yeah, I believe that is how. That is exactly how Dell did their micro PC. So they basically use the power adapter, as a laptop style format. So, one end from the wall goes to a brick, to a separate charging block or brick, whatever. And then, of course, the other end of the brick goes from there into the computer's power jack. So, yeah, it's unlike other desktop PCs where the power cord goes straight from the wall to the desktop's power supply. So, yeah, that is how it is. But I mean, several months with this micro, and I'm already very impressed on the I'm very impressed on the upgrades that I've made to it. I've given it more RAM, I've given it more storage, and I've given it the latest and greatest. Well, the latest, but not really the greatest Windows release. Alright. I think I can go ahead and open up the... But yeah, as I was just saying, I really am enjoying this experience, on this kind of, on this little machine. I really am enjoying the experience. I mean, that I got it for, that I got it from a school that doesn't need it anymore. I too am really impressed. So I mean, hey, I mean, this came at a much better time because I mean, those other computers I had, those weren't going to do me good. So it was time to, get rid of those and, in favor of some much better hardware. Hardware that was newer than those and ones that were compatible with Microsoft's latest endeavor. So I myself am very glad that I got my hands on these when I did. I mean, oh my gosh, that 3060 was on my mind when I first saw it on when I first saw an unboxing video of a Linux model of a 3060 Tower PC. But yeah. I see Lightning Bolt got another one of those fire warnings.
The National Weather Service in Amarillo has issued a fire warning at the request of Amarillo Area Office of Emergency Management for Northern Potter County.
Everybody on Discord's moving over to TeamSpeak. Yeah, because I've seen a whole lot of videos about that. But anyway, all right, we'll go searching for some things for a few more minutes, and then we will move on. All right, on to a 3070 small form factor PC with a 9th gen i5 processor. Again, looks about the same as mine. As again, the 3060 and 70 don't really have anything different. Of course, there's HDMI, and then there's the USB ports, and then there's Ethernet that I had to deal with for, let's see, how long have I had to deal with it? So for about 6 months, I had to deal with this thing on Ethernet, but now that I have a Wi-Fi card in there, I feel very happy about the upgrades I've made. So, oh, here's that 7080 we were looking at earlier. And here's the 9070's Tower counterpart. 9th Gen i5, only 8 gigs of RAM. And then there's all the PCIe ports. And there's PCIe 2. And then here's what looks to be the optional module. It doesn't show what optional... Oh, here we go. And there's a VGA. So yeah, that's the VGA module. Recently closed. So yeah, there's the... Here, let me move this over here. All right, on to the next one now. We have a 5040 6500 with 16 gigs of RAM. That's nice that this has a PS2 keyboard and mouse port. Of course, because of course with the micro PC, yeah, there's no way these would be implemented here, but this one has both HDMI display, has HDMI DisplayPort and VGA. So yeah, this is one of the last Optiplex PCs that are PCs in general to have a PS2 mouse and keyboard port. I mean, it would be nice to try those Windows XP accessories with those. But yeah. And then we move on to, here's the i3 variant of 3060. Again, same as before. HDMI, DisplayPort, EGA. There's no Wi-Fi. No hard drive. No operating system. There is no power cord. There's also no Wi-Fi card in there. Here's another 3080 with 16 gigs of RAM, 10th Gen i5. That's a pretty small looking display. It might have taken this picture on a square monitor or something. And of course showing the drive that's installed. There's the CPU, and then the 16 gigs of RAM, taking only one slot on the motherboard. And then here's the back of it. So there's VGA, HDMI, DisplayPort, USB 3 and USB 2. Is it just me, or is one of the USB ports damaged? No, it doesn't look like it. Probably just some dust or something, but I see there's another VGA port added as a graphics card. And then we have some 6th Gen 3040s. And there's the old line out. And then this is what the each on the inside look like. There's no RAM, no SSD, and no power adapter. Suppose one of these slots is where an NVMe SSD would have gone. Yeah, where an NVMe SSD would have gone. And then here's an early 2021 3080. And I can tell it is early 2021 because this is the Windows 10 logo. The later ones have the Windows 11 sticker on the back. So that's a Windows 10 sticker. The later 2021 models have the 11 sticker. So oh yeah, here's an old one. Here's an Optiplex 9010. That is a 3rd Gen i7. Let's see, where's the manufacturer date? I believe that license code is Windows 7 Pro, and of course it was activated with Windows 10 Pro on it. So I suppose they upgraded from 7 to 10, or installed Windows 10 and then used the Windows 7 license code to activate the product while when Microsoft was still allowing Windows 7 and 8 keys to be used to activate Windows 10 and then later 11, in its first years. Here's a design I don't think I have ever seen before. A 5040 with what looks to be part of the front cover, one of the little things, little grills removed. It's this grill specifically. Missing front plate. And then that's the speaker. That's actually the built-in speaker on the system. So yeah, that's the built-in speaker there. And then what else have we got? I think that's enough looking at some Optiplexes. All right. Now let's see. Latitude detachable. Now there were some detachable latitudes that have caught my attention. Here's one. This is a 5290. So I suppose this was Dell's answer to the Microsoft Surface. So it's kind of nice that Dell did their own attempt at a Microsoft Surface. Here's a 7410, 10th Gen, Windows 11, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, 10th Gen i7. Or is that? Oh no, that's an i5 at 1.7 gigahertz. Yeah. Here's a 5285 with only a 7th generation. but still it has Windows 11 on it. And here's what my school laptop could have been. This one, a Latitude 3300. But hey, it's a 13-inch PC, and it's more powerful. It's a more powerful machine than... it's a more powerful PC than... Yeah, it's a machine that's more powerful, than that Pentium. All right, so it looks like Brandon is not up for Deal or No Deal tonight because we have not gotten a response. Or he might be following Yalek's advice and moving off the Discord platform as soon as he can. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and transition over to Yahtzee now. I'm going to leave the sorry disc in there because I was about to swap the disc out with Deal or No Deal. All right, so with that, we are going to go ahead and move on now to our last game here of the night, and then we are done. And that is Yahtzee. So here we go, we're going to play regular Yahtzee. And yes, I'm looking forward to getting back to taping this show tomorrow. And of course, I'll be doing that throughout the day. So as we're playing here, I'll sort of reiterate everything that I said earlier. So, as of the moment, we have a slight risk on tap for tomorrow. For a majority of Illinois, parts of Ohio, for a majority of Illinois, parts of majority of Indiana, and then parts of Ohio, but then of course there's a large marginal surrounding it. And it does have to do with the 60 degrees that we had today, so I am of course not surprised by it. So I did say, oh, WPWX. I just saw WPWX on there, so I'm coming off too. All right. So now, I did say something about when, as I'm taping Yahtzee episodes tomorrow. So, pretty much I have my plans situated for the rest of this week. Tomorrow especially. So, of course I am still planning on getting up early tomorrow so I can record as many Yahtzee episodes as I can. I'm hoping to record a bunch of them. So, and I did say that these next 2 weeks will be what decides, that pretty much will be what decides the fate of finishing up all these shows, every single one of these shows, following my spring break. But I did make sort of a roadmap for Ticket to Ride, at the way the show is, with the way the show is currently heading. But with midterms coming up in about 2 weeks, I currently have some ideas in mind as to how I'm going to handle the taping cycle in relation to midterms. So it is going to be on Severe Weather Awareness Week, as far as I know. So here's what I was thinking in terms of midterm, but also some other developments too that I found out. Too. But first, let's start with March 2nd. So what I was thinking is take one of the midterm exams first. Yeah, do one of the midterm exams first, and then take one of the midterm exams first. Do that first. And then, as far as I've heard, one of the classes I actually do not have to. I don't have to actually go into the college for, so that's actually a good thing. So what I was thinking is do one of them on that Monday. Well, that is if it actually gets released on time. So if it gets released on time, I'll do it on that Monday. But if not, then I will get up a bit earlier. I will get up much earlier on Tuesday to do that before the Illinois Severe Weather Awareness Week drill, because as I've said, I won't be doing Ticket to Ride episodes until after the Severe Weather Awareness Week drill takes place. So then following that is when I would get back to recording episodes of that show. And then I was thinking for Thursday, I would do the same thing. Take the other exam by getting up much earlier, again on Thursday, and taking the other one. Taking it, the other one. As for a second Minecraft show, that currently has yet to be determined. But what I do know for sure is that for 2 weeks, we will be able to run with the weekly test show entirely uninterrupted. So that being on March 4th and 11th. So that's the plan as of this moment. And then the other development is actually regarding Friday. Is regarding on Friday, which I will get to in a moment here. So there we go. That's game one. Oh, good thing we're getting that trophy now. So. Well, yeah, it was back to beginner because everything was reset. Yeah, because everything was reset from the virtual machine transition. And all that. Alright, so now on Fridays, I've actually found out that now this is when The Perfect Line and Flipside are both on reruns on Fridays. And plus, I also looked at Friday's schedule. I've also looked at Friday's schedule. Also the schedule for the next few days. So, as per usual, I took care of The Perfect Line tonight. I'll take care of Flipside tomorrow during my lunch break. Yeah, during my lunch break tomorrow, I'll take care of Flipside. And then after Jeopardy, there actually isn't going to be that much. We'll be able to start Backyard Baseball on time, and I won't have to worry about joining an evening meeting because there wasn't really anything covered, so pretty much that Thursday night is nearly all to myself. However, WGN is not going to air Scrabble on time for some reason. So I was thinking I'll just take care of Scrabble right here on the New York feed. And then we'll watch Trivial Pursuit probably on here too, or I'll watch it on WGN when it airs here in Chicago. So that is something to consider. So yeah, pretty much on Friday night beginning this week, I can pretty much just do all the talking that I want. You know, it'll probably only take like half an hour, and then I won't have to worry about any shows taking up that time. And then, of course, as per usual, on Thursday night, tomorrow night, after Scrabble and Trivial Pursuit, I'll take care of both Flipside and The Perfect Line, or I could take care of all those shows live. Take care of all of them. I know it's going to be kind of crazy, I mean, me personally, but you know, that's kind of what I like to do. So, I'm going to try to see if I can watch multiple shows at once. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much with that, we have the stage set for tomorrow, so yeah, at this point, we have the stage ready to go for tomorrow. The other thing I was saying is that, what if something ends up happening in the Chicagoland area while I'm taping the episodes? Well, this is kind of going to be our, this is sort of going to be our sneak peek as to what the summer schedule is sort of going to be like. But I gotta cross something off, don't I? Not do that. Yeah, sneak peek of the summer schedule, where during my days off from my part-time job, and if severe weather were to occur, production on the currently, filmed show, on the current show, would then have to stop, and then we could probably start coverage like nearly immediately. But that's definitely something. That is definitely something to consider here. You know, as we get to witness our actual first severe weather event, possibly severe weather event, of the 2026 season. In fact, we didn't even have Severe Weather Awareness Week yet, and already we're getting a sneak peek of sneak peek of what's to come. So of course I have all the monitors in that document ready to go. So, when I get up first thing in the morning tomorrow, I'll just throw them all in there and then get started with Yahtzee, and then just get started with taping Yahtzee episodes. So yeah, pretty much I'll just get started with the production on the show and everything like that. But if something were to happen in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, we would probably then stop production. I think we'd probably do that only for slight risk or higher. Yeah, but right now Chicago's only in a marginal, but I think we'd only do it if there's a watch-in effect. But if it's a marginal, then we can just continue production as usual. So we'd only do coverage if there's a watch active. So at least that's what I think. But of course, there's only one way to find out here. That's the relative humidity reports. Alright. So that's our 2 games of Yahtzee. I'll go ahead and turn off the virtual machine. I could probably do the testing of the domain now that now that we're nearly finished. So I was about to start 81, but I did not get to do that. So I guess now I get to. So yeah, that's pretty much what we have. That's pretty much what I've got planned for tomorrow. So again, if a severe weather event were to occur in Chicagoland tomorrow, then well, we're gonna try. Well, of course, for this first event, we're gonna do trial and error. So with this being a marginal, we're gonna first, if Chicago were to issue something, and of course, production on the current show will be stopped immediately. We'll immediately stop production. We'll get the product in question, and then I'll get it up and then continue production. So we're gonna try this out, and we'll see how it goes. But when a watch is issued, then that's when production will stop, and no other episodes will be made until the watch totally expires. So that is gonna be something we will try. Something we're gonna try for tomorrow's marginal risk, possibly slight risk if they expand it. If they expand it after midnight, but I guess we will find out when the day 2 becomes a day 1 here in a matter of hours. So, well, actually, in the next couple hours or 3 hours or whatever. So, anyway, well, yeah, within the next 2 to 3 hours, when that day 2 becomes day 1, we will see what happens. All right. So, are there any more other tests that we need to go back on here before we go? The DASDEC capture of a golden alert for Kentucky. The Georgia monthly test from earlier. The complete puzzling world of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's like 3 hours long. And yeah, I see Roadway Wiz has documented the entire interstate system. Very impressive. So basically, every mile of every interstate, north to south and east to west, that definitely is an accomplishment many years in the making. So this was quite a long time coming, and I'm very proud that he finally made it this far. So this is definitely an amazing achievement for him. I'm very proud that he made it this far. All right, let's see. So is that everything that we needed to talk about here? Let's see about tonight. Let's see. Yeah, I think at this point that's everything that we need to discuss here. So with that being said, that is going to wrap things up for us here tonight. But of course, we can't go until we thank Tom and Ben for, of course, being great members of our show. We've always enjoyed having them with us. So we'll go ahead and close them. And to thank all of our special guests who have joined us today. Let's see. I know Brian was with us for a brief moment during the Eastern Seaboard. He was just playing soundboard effects and things like that. Andrew Durnock was with us the whole time. I don't think anybody else was with us. I remember HDX was with us last night, so during our Roblox show, but I think those were the only three. But I mean, it's understandable. I mean, there's some people who have, other things other things going on and stuff. But you know what? It's fine. I mean, just at least some support. It's kind of nice that we get the support that we get. So yeah, as I said, I will get to production of Yahtzee tomorrow. I'll see how many episodes I can make before the severe weather event. Unfolds. And of course, at the moment, there's currently no statistics on it yet. And yes, I'll spend the rest of my night uploading, or rendering rather, more of these Ticket to Ride episodes. While probably raving to more of those Yu-Gi-Oh! Theme songs, because I just found a whole video of every single theme song of the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dub. Both Zexels, probably. So Chicago's latest update does say in the morning there's a chance for isolated storms southeast of I-55. And then afternoon, early evening, scattered storms favor in the window. But of course, in the slight risk area, that's where a tornado, wind, and hail threat is present. But then, currently for the marginal risk, we don't know. However, what is uncertain still is if any of them are able to develop in the morning, and the northward extent of any in the afternoon hours. But I want to take a quick look at the 6-hour radar really quick, just so I can. So it looks like I may want to put Lincoln and Indianapolis in there a little sooner, because I do see that something could end up going down in those areas, earlier. So, if that's going to end up happening, then because of course it's best to be prepared now, than to be out of it later. So of course I'm putting Lincoln, Indianapolis in there in case they issue anything in the morning. Well, in the early morning hours, but as for the afternoon, we have yet to see. But we'll see how things play out. We'll see how things play out around that time, and then, we'll see what ends up happening from there. So, of course, I will keep an eye on, I'll take another check on the forecasts and everything in the morning, and we'll see how things, before I get to taping Yahtzee episodes, and, we'll see how things play out. So, with that being said, that is going to do it for us here tonight for our weekly Test Wednesday show. So, of course, once again, I want to thank all of our special guests who have joined us today. And of course, it's really nice when we have them with us for a show like this. So it's of course very nice that we have them with us for a long-running show of this kind. And we will be back with you again tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Of course, it's the usual time for our Backyard Baseball show. So, of course, we'll be back with Backyard Baseball tomorrow at 5 p.m., which has been its signature time and will remain that way for, however long it's going to be. But until then, I'm Mr. Planfald, and we wish all of you a very pleasant good night.